Let's add material to our object. Before moving on, you need to understand that Unity does not recognize Blender's material other than its diffuse color. So you should tweak the materials in Unity later, not in Blender. What we need to do in Blender, however, beside the diffuse color, is naming the materials and defining material slot assignment to the faces of our object. This is because Unity doesn't have any capability to assign material per face. So again, you need to do this in Blender before exporting it to Unity. So let's go back to object mode first, go to the material panel. Notice we already have the default material from Blender called material. Let's rename this material to metal_gold. Usually, Blender use dot to separate words such as metal.gold. But because when you export this to Unity, and Unity actually store assets in files with different extensions based on the asset type, Unity like to use underscore to separate words instead of dots. So let's use underscore also in here, just so we have more consistent naming. You will understand how important it is when working on a project with a lot of people and with a lot of assets. Okay, let's change the diffuse color to gold like yellow color. Okay, now let's create a new material slot for the wood material. Click this new button in here, rename the material to wood. The W letter should be uppercase, just like the metal gold on top, so we have consistency in our naming convention. Change the color to wood like brownish color. I think we need to reduce the saturation. Now let's go back to edit mode. Remember, we still have these faces selected before. While they are selected like this, click the Assign button in here. Now the wood material is assigned to the selected faces, and we have the exterior shape of our treasure chest finished. To finish up the model, we need to split these edges in here so the upper part is separated from the bottom part. To do this, we can go to Edit mode again, press Z to go to wireframe mode, go to Edge mode and select these 4 edges. Then press Ctrl E. This will open the edge modeling functions. Then choose this edge split in here. Okay, edge split will split the edges that we have selected before. Because of this, if we go to face mode, for example, and hover our mouse over any faces in here, remember we're just hovering the mouse now, not clicking on anything, then press L key in the keyboard, only the upper faces get selected. If we move this up, we can see that the object's geometry gets split up in the edges we have before. Okay, now that we have these faces selected, we can actually make them separated to a new object. To do that, we can press P, then choose Selection. Now, if we go back to the object mode, we can select them and move them independently as different objects. Now, let's finish up the bottom part first. Select it and then press / key on the numpad to localize it. So everything is hidden except this object. Go to Edit mode and then Edge mode, hold Alt and right-click on the border edge. Press F to fill it with face. Now go to Face mode and then press I for inset. Notice Blender will use existing or previous inset value that we have before as the default, so just left-click to confirm. Extrude this down, go to Side View by pressing 3 in the numpad, then press Z to go to wireframe mode. Move the face down a bit, then hit S to scale. Okay, now we have the interior of the bottom chest. Press / again to go out from the local mode. For the top or the cover part of the chest, the process will be identical, so I'll just speed up the video for now. Now we have the interiors for both parts of the treasure chest finished. Before we can create the animation, notice if we select the upper part, and then press R to rotate, then X to constrain the rotation to X-axis. The rotation looks off because it uses the origin point as the center of the rotation, and the origin of this object is at the bottom. To fix this, go to Edge mode, then select this edge in here. Then use the Quick Origin add-on to move the origin point to this position. Click this Set Origin button, and now as we can see, the origin point is in this location. So because we have corrected the origin, if we rotate by pressing R, then X, we can see the rotation looks correct now. Currently, if we import this model to Unity, the object will have ugly generic names. So let's name these objects properly. Select the bottom one and rename it to body. Then select the upper object again and rename it to cover. Okay, next let's create the animation. If you are planning to create animation and render it right inside Blender, you should have no problem with frame numbering. But because we're going to export this to Unity, you need to understand several things regarding the animation import process. First of all, any keyframe you put on 0 frame in Blender will not get exported to Unity. Okay, so you should always start your animation from frame 1, not 0. The second thing that you need to know is that frame number 1 in Blender will be named frame number 0 in Unity. So every keyframe numbering will be less 1 frame of the actual Blender frame position. If you just remember these two things, you should good to go, inshallah. To create keyframe for the animation, we need a special editor called Dope Sheet. So click drag from this corner editor to create a new editor window. Change this to Dope Sheet. The timeline down here, we actually don't really need it except for playback control and setting start and ending animation in here. So for now, we can safely drag the Dope Sheet editor until it touches the timeline header like this. Remember, we need to start animating from frame 1. So place the playhead at frame 1. Then make sure the cover object is selected. Then, to insert a keyframe at the current frame, we can press I, then choose rotation. By doing that, Blender created a keyframe for the object's rotation. Now, don't get confused with all of these keyframes. We actually have one keyframe at the bottom, and the other 3 keyframes above it are just the summary keyframes showing what is going on in their descendants. So basically, if we create a keyframe in one object, it will show up also on its hierarchical parents. Okay, next, after we have a rotational keyframe at frame 1, let's move the playhead to frame 21. Remember, in Unity later, this number 21 will be number 20. So that is why we add 1 frame on purpose in Blender now. Go to 3D View and press R, then X, until the chest cover open like this. Okay, after we have something like this, press I again to insert keyframe and choose rotation just like before. Now, move the playhead to frame 41. This will be frame 40 later in Unity. And then, we need to create the same rotation keyframe for the chest cover just like the one we have in frame 1. We can do this easily by right-clicking on the keyframe at frame 1, press Ctrl C to copy it, then press Ctrl V to paste it. And Blender will paste the copied keyframe from frame 1 to the current playhead location, which is frame 41. So now, if we scrub the playhead, this is opening animation, and then followed by closing animation. Okay, now press Ctrl S to save the file. I always turn on this compress option all the time to make the file size smaller. Let's name this file to treasure chest. Hit enter and click the Save as Blender File button up here. Okay guys, that's it for this part. In the next video, we'll cover how to import the 3D model along with its materials and animations from Blender to Unity, and then add interaction with Playmaker plugin. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give a thumbs up if you like the video, and give a thumbs down if you don't like the video. See you in the next part. Wassalamualaikum.